Competitively, like with regard to the sport itself, it's a very obviously cerebral game. People have compared it to chess on ice, and I think that's more apt than the shuffleboard comparisons or anything like that. You know, it's not just chess, it's that you're sliding the pieces down a 100-foot sheet of ice towards a giant bullseye, so regardless of whether or not you know what you're supposed to do, you still have to be able to accomplish it too. You know, there's so many facets to the game outside of just athletic performance. And it's something that really gets the mind going, really has you thinking all the time, and if you're not staying sharp and staying focused throughout the game, then somebody else will be, and you can lose a game solely based on, you know, one or the other, your performance or your strategy. It's a very unique game in that respect, I think. You know, that I can't really compare it to anything else. I've played a lot of sports in my life, and nothing wears me out more than a weekend on the road curling, because by the time I get done, my brain is just shut down, you know. So I'll go back and, you know, like I'll talk to the girlfriend on the phone and apologize at the beginning of the conversation because I know I'm going to be brain dead. There's no whole lot I can do about it, but she understands that too. It's just, it physically wears you down to be focusing that hard for that amount of time, and if you don't feel worn out by the end of the weekend, you probably weren't winning. You know, you probably weren't as focused as you needed to be. So, you know, the grinding it out, going through the long weeks at nationals and the long weekends and tournaments like this when you're getting into the playoffs, as much as it wears you down, I think that's what I enjoy most about the actual sport itself, is that it's a grind. You know, we use that word all the time on the circuit. It's always a grind, you know. You're always trying to find ways to win. You're always trying to find ways to stay sharp towards the end of the weeks. You
know, if you're in a sport that you're actually good at and you can play and you have a chance to go to the Olympics, that's good to play at that competitive level. It's kind of like, as an attorney, I'm a trial attorney, so I give a lot of closing arguments and things like that, and the adrenaline rush and how you feel about when you're in high-level competition. I just thrive on that. You always feel like you've been through a war by the end of it, you know, and when you win at a tournament like this, or at a nationals or a trials or something like that, you feel like you've been through a battle, and there's a definite sense of accomplishment, just because in order to succeed at this level of play, it takes such a high level of concentration and focus.
Like, back in the States is a bit different than it is up here in Canada. It's newer. It's definitely growing, like, very fast in popularity, but it's different than hockey or football or basketball or soccer, where there's, you know, millions of kids playing, and there's just a lot more opportunity, and that's something that's really drawn me to it. Curling in the United States has always been a grassroots game. It's kind of like the US Open in golf. Anybody's always had a chance to win, and that's kind of one of the great things about the sport.
In Canada, to go to the Olympics, there's the top 8 teams that go to the Olympic trials, are all unbelievably successful, really well-known teams. And for any other team in the world, it'd be really tough to go win the Canadian Olympic trials. Or, you know, if the Olympics was 8 Canadian teams and 8 top world teams, the podium would probably all be Canadian most of the time. So the way the Olympics goes, any team has a chance to not only medal but win, simply because you don't have to beat those top Canadian teams over and over and over. You just have to put yourself in a position to win once. To be frank, when you represent the U.S. at the Olympics, you know, you're on the grand stage more than any other country in the world, you know. For an American, to be able to go to the Olympics and succeed, I think would do a lot for curling too, you know, and that's not just because, you know, we look at ourselves as, you know, the United States. It's just that there's that much more media coverage and sponsorship money that would come from a U.S. team being successful. And I think any Canadian would tell you that too. Every Olympics, it kind of seems we get our TV time, and it comes and people are flocking to curling clubs and they want to try it, and they're hooked, and it's kind of a, you know, you take a little pride in that, you know, whether or not the results are exactly what you wanted them to be,
being able to grow a game that's given a lot to you and be able to give back a little bit when you can is kind of a cool deal. And I don't know if I would have necessarily had that opportunity playing the other sports that I did growing up.
So we are at beautiful Casa del Stu Sankey here in Toronto, and it's probably what makes this, I think, our team's favorite event to go to, just because, you know, we don't have to stay in a hotel. We get here and Stu is one of the nicest guys in curling.
Stu is, we met him 4 years ago, and he took us in right away and just kind of showed us the town. Whatever we needed, he said he'd do.
Well, when we first did the Bonspiel, we first started, Jerry Gertz came to me and said, look, this team from the States will come up, but they're too cheap and they don't have a place to stay. And if they crash with you, then they'll come up and it'll be good to get an American team. So I said, sure, I've got tons of room. They can come stay at my place. And they came into the airport and I went to pick them up. And while we were driving back, Rich kind of leaned over and said, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Stu. And he goes, well, Stu who? And I'm like, well, I'm Stu Sankey. He goes, you're the sponsor of the event? I'm like, yeah. And you're picking us up at the airport? And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And so that's how we kind of started the friendship. And then they hung out at my place.
He's the sponsor for the Stu sells Toronto Tankard, the tournament up here. And from the first year he had the event, we came up, heard it'd be a good new event to participate in, and he's just done a fantastic job with the event. What he's built it into in the 4 years that he's had it is nothing short of amazing. You know, it was just from scratch, and he's got many of the top teams in the world playing in the event, and it's garnered a reputation for being not just a high caliber spiel, but an entertaining event to be at, regardless of if you're curling or not.
Today he set up a brewery tour where we got to go in and have a few beers. We were there with one of the Russian teams that's here, and we had a good afternoon learning about how beer was made and about the Steam Whistle Brewery in downtown Toronto.
And it was awesome. We actually got a VIP tour.
As everyone else was doing the corny tour thing up on the catwalks and stuff, we were able to kind of walk down below, and it was great. It was phenomenal. And every year we're here like that, Stu has something like that lined up for us, and it's great to be here. He's
what this sport's all about. There's lots of people that are genuine and nice and would give you the shirt off your back, but Stu's that and more. He's just a great guy, very genuine, very caring, honest, and he really loves the sport.
Anybody that doesn't think that people like Stu are important to what we're doing, I mean, then you know, you need to come to the tournament, take a look around and see the teams that are there, how much fun people are having, and we need more events like he runs, you know, and it's a reason to come back up. This is not a tournament that we're ever going to miss. You know, it's always going to be slated into our schedule no matter what, and I think a lot of the teams that have been here say the same thing, and most of the teams that were here from the start come back. So that's always a good sign for your tournament too.
Curling's a sport that really relies on the public and needs it, and you know, United States of America is a huge country, and if curling was hot, you know, people would probably do it more, and that can only benefit the sport. So if an American team can win the Olympics, you know, that's going to be huge, because then, you know, Americans love to pump themselves up. So they'll be like, oh, we have a winning curling team, and you know, that's only going to bring the, you know, the public outlook on the sport. It's only going to make it better, you know, if they can win. But of course, they're not going to win because Canada is the better curling country, and we of course are going to win. They might have to settle for a silver medal, but that will still help the sport.